The previous video we've talked about the role of saving in economic prosperity. We find that according to the logic reasoning and the economic evidence, the real world evidence, that a higher saving leads to a higher income level. The economic intuition behind this relationship is when we save more, we have more resources, we can make more physical investment, which better equips our workers with tools, machineries, and equipment, so they become more productive. And in the long term, their income will be higher. When economists took these policy implications to developing world and suggest them to save more, the very first question we find is they will tell us they would like to save more if they have more money. In other words, in their opinion, the causation is actually go from income to saving. They believe that they did not save enough because their income level is too low. So here, this issue in front of us is called reverse causation. In other words, the causation could go either ways. A higher saving could lead to a higher level of income, or a higher level of income could lead to more saving. Okay? If the causation goes from income to saving, then we cannot conclude that a higher saving is a growth promoting policy. That's why here in this video we're going to talk about other determinants of economic performance. We're trying to see if we can find other theories and evidence to show the long-term determinants of economic performance. Here on the screen you see the world income map. So if a country is maroon or dark red, that means it has a relatively higher income per person. Okay? For example, Canada and United States, their income per person is higher than $51,000. Okay, and when we go to the lighter red, like Mexico here, and we're looking at some middle income countries. When we go even lighter, like orange, yellow, then we're looking at some of these relatively poor countries. Okay, you would find that in Africa, some of these countries, their income per person is below $400 per year. In other words, less than $2 per day. Extremely poor countries. Okay? Here, we want to look at the whole picture and trying to find a pattern across these countries. Okay? And for example, if we travel around the world, starting with the tropical area, okay, you would find that here in Africa, these are the sub-Saharan African economies. They are extremely poor ones. Okay, when we start heading north, we find Northern Africa economies are relatively richer. And we keep going to the north. This is Europe, right? And Northern Europe gets richer and richer. When we start heading south from sub-Saharan Africa, we find Botswana, Zimbabwe. These economies, Botswana and South Africa. These economies are doing better economically. Okay, now let's look at Americas. When we start from the Central Americas, Haiti, for example, these economies are relatively poor. When we go to the north, Mexico, United States, and Canada, it gets richer and richer. When we head south, we find Brazil, Chile, Peru, and Argentina. Again, getting richer and richer in general. Okay, you will find the same thing here on this side among the Asian economies. Okay, and when we start from the tropical area, we find India, Bangladesh, Vietnam, relatively poor countries. When we head north, we find China, South Korea, Japan, okay, getting richer. And when we head south, we find Australia and New Zealand. Okay. In other words, here we find that we might be able to produce a curve here. I'm sorry. Let me come back here and trying to show you. If we put income on the vertical axis and latitude on the horizontal axis, and we put equator in the middle, and South Pole on the very left hand and the North Pole on the very right hand. Okay, you can switch these two, it won't change the conclusion. Now here we find that when we start from the tropical area, we said that we get these very poor economies, right? When we head south and north, we find it's relatively richer. So overall, we find this kind of curve. Okay, you could say this is a U-shape or V-shape or inverted bell curve. Okay, remember here we're talking about the general pattern. Okay, not specific ones. You can definitely find some outliers. For example, Singapore is it's in the tropical area, but its income per person is pretty high. Okay, so we're not talking about these outliers. We're talking about general pattern across the globe. Okay. Now here, why we have such a inverted bell-shaped curve? Okay. I would suggest you to pause the video and think about what could be the possible explanations. Okay. Here, we know for sure that the geographical location matters, right? Where you are, where this economy is, matters. So when you think about the possible explanations, think about the role of geography or geographical location. All right. In the next video, we're gonna try to come up with several explanations.